Hi, IB Bio students. This is Mrs. Foltz. Today we're going to be talking about Chapter 9, just the first two sections on the xylem and phloem. Before we get into the xylem and phloem, we want to just go over some basic plant stuff. So plants are broken into two groups, angiosperms and gymnosperms. We're going to focus in this class on angiosperms. This is what you think of typical flowering plants. Generally speaking, we're going to divide angiosperms into also two groups known as monocots and dicots. The most obvious difference between the two of them is that dicot literally means two cotyledons, dicot. And so that means the embryo of the seed is made up of two parts, whereas in a monocot, you have mono, which means one cotyledon or one part, the embryo. There are also differences as you look at this table between the number of floral parts or petals and the vein differences between the leaves. When you're looking at slides, though, and IB does this a lot, sometimes they have practice questions with pictures like this, you can also clearly see the difference between monocots and dicots when you're looking at a transverse section of the stem. So if I cut that and kind of look at it, the dicot, you have a ring of vascular tissue, okay, with the xylem and phloem on the outside edge of that stem. Whereas in monocots, you get what are called vascular bundles. They're kind of just randomly spread out inside the stem. So you can see there's like a little xylem and phloem paired together here and another one here. So it's a really easy way to tell the difference between a monocot and dicot when you're looking at a cross-section inside of a microscope slide. Xylem is the first one we're going to talk about, is basically the water transport system in the plant. So in plants, water is sucked up through the roots and then it's sent to the leaves. And so the roots are the source of water and the sink, or the place they're ending up, is the leaves. And so how does that happen? Well, xylem cells is actually dead cells that have an attractive force between them and the water molecules themselves. So the water and the xylem are attracted to each other, and water is also attracted to itself. So when the plant loses water through transpiration, which happens in the leaves, it kind of pulls up on that water molecule. It's something called the transpiration pull effect. Okay, and you'll see it talks about that quite a bit in our book, and it's right here on this slide in your notes. So as the water leaves, the water gets picked up. Another cool thing that happens is as the plant is absorbing that water, it also is going to bring in different minerals and ions that are in the soil. Not as many as it needs. So a lot of times the xylem plant also has a relationship between fungal hyphae, which increase the surface area so they can pour on more. They also will have active transport or protein pumps that move in specific minerals that they might need a lot of. And so those are different ways that happens. So this slide here and in the book, it talks about different ways that we can actively pump things into the cell. Okay, the next one that we're going to talk about is the phloem. And the phloem is basically how we get organic materials around the plant. So in this case, we're making those through photosynthesis in the leaves, and that is the source. The sink where they're going is down to the stem, down to the roots. So we have this kind of two-way highway that's happening in the plant where the water is moving up and then the sugar or organic molecules are moving down. And so there's a couple of different ways that happens. The two different routes that can happen to cause this are known as the apoplast route and the symplast route. And it's basically how is those organic materials moving through the plant. So this is kind of the simplest diagram. There's a couple of different explanations in the notes to look at, but this is kind of the simplest diagram for how that happens. And the apoplast route is going to move along the cell walls until it gets to this aspirin strip, and then it's going to move through these things called the plasmodesmata. Where in the case of the symplast, you're actually moving through the plasmodesmata from one cell to the other, and we're going that direction. So phloem is there for those sugars and starches and different things that are made inside of the plant. And so it's really important that we have quite a bit of water mixed in with that. So we want to have the water from the xylem actually moves into the phloem up at the leaves, dilutes it, and then it gets carried down. Okay, so this is just a quick description of 9.1 and 9.2 on xylem and phloem. If you have any other questions, email me or join our Zoom. Until then.